last part of module 2 I will be covering. We will take a look at what are the approaches to information security. Why do you need different approaches? Now, risks affecting organizations can have consequences in terms of economic performance and professional reputation, as well as other factors such as the environmental, safety and special outcomes, societal outcomes. So, managing risks effectively helps organizations to perform well in an environment full of uncertainty. So, that is why you need different approaches to information security. There are different standards available for information security. One is COBIT, which we will discuss in detail, ISO 27001, which is for organization security, and ISO 31000 for risk management. So, 31000 is becoming more popular. It is basically principles and guidelines. It provides principles, framework and a process for managing risk. It can be used by any organization regardless of the size or the what activity it performs, or even it is not dependent on the sector. Using 31000 also can help organizations increase the likelihood of achieving their objectives, improve the identification of opportunities and threats, effectively allocate and use resources for risk treatment. Then we will look at IT Act 2000, some of the important clauses of IT Act 2000, not all of them in detail. Let us see what COBIT is. First of all, what is the purpose of IT governance? The purpose of IT governance is to direct the IT endeavors, ensure that IT's performance meets certain objectives. What are the objectives? Alignment of IT with the enterprise and realization of the promised benefit. So, what does that mean? Your business objective should be aligned, or you should have a clear business objective. Your IT objective should align with the business objective, so that you can achieve what you want to achieve as an organization and simplify and optimize the processes. Then use of IT to enable the enterprise by exploiting opportunities and maximizing benefit. So, again you use IT to the optimum by exploiting opportunities. So, what are the opportunities that you may want to exploit? One is you want to do a data analysis of your market, your competitors, market competitors, to see how better you can project your product or services, and in what kind of resources you will use to achieve that. Maybe you may optimize it to bring a reduced workforce. So, you use IT to enable the enterprise by exploiting opportunities and maximizing benefits. Then responsible use of IT resources. Use IT resources for doing something beneficial to the organization to achieve its goals, rather than just left, right and center implementing IT. Then appropriate management of IT related risk. What does this mean? So, you need to have a risk based approach and manage it efficiently to see that most of your measures mitigate the risk that comes out of your IT infrastructure. Now, what are the focus areas of IT governance? You see the slide. There is stakeholder value driver. So, there is something which is of value, or there is a vision for the stakeholders. The IT strategic alignment should be there with the vision, that is on your left hand side of the white box. There should be, from the strategic alignment, there should be a value in the IT delivery. Similarly, IT resource management should be optimized, which in turn should lead to your risk management process. Then you measure the performance, and then so this is basically a cycle where The IT governance revolves around these areas. One is your strategic alignment of IT with your stakeholder values or your business vision. Then you have the actual delivery of IT values. Then you have the resource management, that is a people management, technology management, process management. Then your risk management comes into the picture, where you effectively identify the controls for the risks. Then you measure the performance for enhancement. So, this cycle continues. Now, why do we need a framework? This is the question. Increasing dependence on information and the systems that deliver this information. So, you have everything on the system today on a large network, large database. So, you depend on the information that the system gives you, or you derive information, or you make business decision based on what the system is giving you. So, you need a framework to protect the IT resources and infrastructure. Increasing vulnerabilities and a wide spectrum of threats such as cyber threats and information warfare. We will look at cyber threats, information warfare in domain 3, which deals extensively with your kinds of threats, that is virus and malware, your information warfare. So, since the vulnerabilities also are increasing on a day-to-day basis and more new threats are coming in, you need a framework to safeguard your information and information resources. Then your scale and cost of the current and future investment in information and information system. Organizations generally spend a lot of amount of money and make investments for the future for the information and information systems. So, you need a framework to actually follow the practices. Then the important thing is you need to comply with regulations. There will be regulatory bodies. If it is a bank, you have Reserve Bank. If you have an insurance, if you are an insurance company, you have IRDA. So, if you are a stock broking company, then you have BSE, NSE. So, you need to comply with the guidelines released by these regulators from time to time. So, you need a proper framework to address your risks. Then the potential for technologies to dramatically change organizations and business practices, create opportunities and reduce costs. So, as we discussed earlier, the technology itself has an immense potential to dramatically reorient the organization by introducing business practices, by creating new opportunities. An example is data analytics, or you do analysis or market competitor analysis to find out what best way you can do to sell your products or services. Then recognition by many organizations of the potential benefits that the technology can yield. Now, lot of organizations today realize that without technology there is no way forward. So, you need to implement IT in a very responsible way and ensure that your organization follows some framework for better business, for better security and better management of information and information resources. And if you see, the successful organization also understand and manage the risk associated with implementing new technologies. So, organizations need to ensure that IT should provide value. So, that means that the cost, the time and functionality are as expected. In simple terms, you implement IT, it should give you the information that you require at the time you require. At the same time, it should not be at a very high cost, and it should give you the desired functionality. You should not be able to get the result that you require in a roundabout way. It should be a straightforward, simple mechanism. IT does not provide surprises, risks are mitigated. So, by implementing IT, once you mitigate risks, you address the vulnerabilities, the threats, the risks. IT does not provide surprises. So, it means it works as intended. So, you design it to work in a particular way, it will work in that particular way, provided your risks are mitigated. IT pushes the envelope, new opportunities and innovations for processes, products and services. So, again with the implementation of IT, you have new opportunities for innovation, I mean for creating a new process, for creating a new product or to deliver a new service. But who needs a framework? Now, if you take the organizational hierarchy, the board and executive, why do they need? To ensure that the management follows and implements the strategic direction of for IT management. So, the board and executive will basically say that your management down below follow a set of rules, follow a set of framework and implements the direction for the IT. So, basically they direct or they are the ones who say these are the policies that my organization needs to follow and this is how we implement it, and this is what we need to do to take the organization forward. That is as far as the board and executive comes. Then there is management. Management can be, in some places they say it is a senior management, in some places they say it is a top management. So, basically management is the top, the ones that are below the board and executive. Now, why do they need or their framework? To make IT investment decision. For every small computer purchase, you cannot go to the board of directors. They may be having a limit beyond 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs, it needs to be approved by the board. So, till that amount, the management, the top management or senior management may take that decision. So, if a framework is there, it will help the management to make better decisions. It will also help the management to balance risk and control the investments. So, if a proper framework is there, the risk can be balanced using proper risk assessment or risk mitigation or risk management methodologies, and then control the investment. So, there will not be an unnecessary expenditure over the IT to benchmark existing and future IT environment. So, once you have a framework, let us say your organization follows COBIT. COBIT we are going to discuss later. So, COBIT, once it becomes a benchmark, irrespective of who comes and goes, COBIT, as long as the organization is there, that particular standard will be followed, because you have already put in the framework, already people are following it. So, it becomes a benchmark for existing and future IT environment. So, anything that you do with IT, you will say, okay, let us make it compliant to COBIT or let us make it compliant to 27001. Then the normal users, why they need a framework? To obtain assurance on security and control of products and services they acquire internally or externally. So, now the users need assurance in what way? That the product is safe or the software that they use is safe, and control of the services also they are delivering is safe and secure. So, irrespective of whether they obtain it internally or externally. So, they need an assurance, they need a assurance which the framework can give, because a proper set of policies, a proper set of procedures are followed. The users will get an assurance that the security and there is a control of products and services. The auditors, finally, why? To substantiate opinions to management on internal controls. Now, it is very easy for an auditor, if he needs to audit an organization, say based on COBIT. I have seen a lot of audits based on we need a COBIT compliance for SAP infrastructure, we need an ISO 27001 certification, we need a certification based on ISO 9126 or an audit based on a framework of ISO 9126. So, from the auditor's perspective, it is relatively easier to follow a framework and do the audit, conduct an audit and find out the results, whether it is positive or not, so that he can substantiate his opinions to the management on what the internal control processes are existing in the organization. That will also give the auditor a better understanding of what to advise or what are the minimal set of controls which are necessary for that organization to improve on the information security infrastructure. Now, let us get into what COBIT is. COBIT is Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. It is also a set of best practices, or again you can call it a framework for IT management created by the Information Systems Audit and Controls Association, ISACA. So, the entire COBIT slides that we are going to explain is made or rather owned by ISACA. You would have heard of lot of certifications of ISACA like CISA, CISM, CRISEC, CGIT. So, it is the same organization that has bought out COBIT. COBIT actually incorporates major international standards. There are references to Cadbury, Cocoa in COBIT. It has become a de facto standard for overall control of IT. Again, the moment you say that you want to go for a COBIT certification, you know that the organization knows the depth of COBIT and what it needs to achieve COBIT compliance. It starts from business requirements and is process oriented. Now, when you say starts from business requirement, it is first you should know what your business requirement is, then you should know what your IT requirement is, then you decide on what other controls you need. So, generally when you look at standards, they say okay, this is your requirement in IT, this is what you need to do and this is how you have to implement. Whereas, in COBIT they start right from the business requirement onwards, which is to ensure that your IT related requirements match with your or go in sync with your business requirement. And it is process oriented, in the sense for everything there is a process and you need to follow the process to achieve something. What are the basics of COBIT? It starts from the premise that the IT needs to deliver the information that the enterprise needs to achieve objectives. That is, it is telling that your IT and business strategy should be aligned. It promotes process focus and process ownership. It's the focus is on the process that is followed and every process should have a owner. Like you have seen in domain 1, there should be owner, custodian and user of information. Now, the process ownership is one particular process. Let us say that the management of a server is a process. Now, who owns that process? Who is the custodian of the process? Who is the user of that process? What rights that the people have in that? What they can do, what they cannot do? What happens if something goes wrong? So, all of this is there written down in a process and the focus is on the process and the ownership of that process. COBIT divides IT into 34 processes belonging to 4 domains. If you see on the right hand side, plan and organize is one domain, acquire and implement is another, deliver and support is a third one and monitor and evaluate is the fourth one. So, it divides IT into 34 processes belonging to these 4 domains. It considers fiduciary, quality and security needs of the enterprise, providing 7 information criteria that can be used to define what the business requirement from IT is. So, basically if you see on the right hand side, there are 7 controls, 7 I's. Okay. In all of the words on the right hand side, starting from effectiveness to compliance, there are I's in every letter, the letter I. So, you see effectiveness, efficiency, confidentiality, integrity, availability, reliability and compliance. It considers the fiduciary, quality and security needs of the enterprises, providing 7 information criteria. So, these are the information criteria. It is applicable to what? It is applicable to application, technology, facilities, people and data. So, this 7 for that I. So, basically you need to remember the 12 characteristics, which is effectiveness, efficiency, confidentiality, integrity, availability, your compliance and reliability for applications, technologies, facilities, people and data. And it is supported by, COBIT is supported by a set of over 300 detailed control objectives. What are the enterprise benefits of COBIT? Now, enterprises and their executives strive to, or they try to maintain quality information to support business decision. So, that means the information that is generated out of their IT system should be of quality. Quality is fitness for use, fitness for purpose, that is the definition of quality. But in this case it also means quality requirement can be, if it needs to be confidential, it has to be kept confidential. Data should not be altered, that means it should maintain the integrity, and it should be available to authorized users at whatever time they require it. So, you need to maintain the quality of information to support business decisions. To generate business value from IT enabled investment, that is to achieve strategic goals and realize business benefits through effective and innovative use of IT. So, now the organization has spent a lot of investment or made a lot of investment in IT. So, they need to not only achieve their goal and realize the benefit for their business, but they also need to generate business from that. It is not enough that you have some IT systems in place and you are doing something, but you need to derive value out of your IT system, so that your organization performs more optimally and you generate more business out of that framework that you follow. Then you achieve operational excellence through reliable and efficient application of technology. Now, what is operational excellence? That is, the operation should be streamlined. You go from step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but through IT if you are able to go from step 1, 4 and 5, that is optimization of your processes. So, basically you are trying to be more efficient in your operational practices and you try to emulate excellence through reliable and efficient application of IT. You also maintain IT related risk at an acceptable level. So, there is nothing called zero risk. You need to have risk at an acceptable level. There may be cases where you cannot even handle that risk or put some controls for certain kind of risk. So, you transfer the risk through insurance, or it may be because your technology used is old. So, you need to replace the technology or repair the technology. So, that is another thing, or even retire that technology. So, if you have a server, take an example that you have an old server, you can't do you can't install new softwares in that. So, you need to either upgrade the server to perform to the what you require, that is you try to repair that, or you try to replace that. Even then you can't do, you try to retire that itself, that I don't want this server, let me look at some other alternate form of doing it. Then you optimize the cost of IT and IT service and technology. Now, how can these benefits be realized to create enterprise stockholder value? We will look at that. What is stakeholder value? Stakeholder, stockholder, I mean different people use different things. For the purpose of COBIT, let us use stakeholder value. Now, delivering enterprise stakeholder value requires good governance and management of IT assets. Now, you have seen what is an asset. So, if you need to, what are the assets? Let us say in simple terms, people, process and technology are assets. in an organization. So, almost everything is covered in people process technology. Now, you deliver enterprise stakeholder value. To deliver that, you need to have a good governance of IT. Then your boards, your executives, the managements all have to embrace IT like any other significant part of the business. You should not use IT as a method or as a mode of just doing some business. You should leverage to the maximum extent, so that your board of directors of the organization, the executives and management should treat it and use it like any other significant part of business, like your sales or marketing function, which actually brings in business. So, you need to leverage IT also to that level. Your external legal, regulatory and contractual compliance requirements related to enterprise use of information and technologies are increasing, threatening value if breached. External legal, regulatory compliance requirements, again they require a lot of controls in place, lot of framework in place, and the penalty for not complying, the obligations of not complying, the fines of not complying are too high. So, you need to have a proper framework in place. So, the stakeholder should realize that having an effective framework is going to help the organization. We have discussed about all these things, and COBIT 5 provides these things. What does it provide? A comprehensive framework that assists the enterprises to achieve their goal and deliver value through effective governance and management of enterprises. Last 2-3 slides we have seen why a framework is required, who requires a framework, and what the stakeholder value is in implementing a framework. All these put together is available in COBIT 5, because it provides a very comprehensive framework that the enterprises need or require to achieve their goals and values through effective governance. That is, you govern effectively and manage the IT enterprise or the IT unit effectively, so that you can leverage maximum benefit out of it. The COBIT 5 framework itself, let us take a look at it. COBIT 5 or COBIT helps the enterprises to create optimal value for IT by maintaining a balance between realizing the benefits and optimizing risk levels and resource use. So, again we are talking about optimization. So, you have to derive the maximum from your IT infrastructure, but for doing that you should still maintain a balance between realizing benefit and optimizing risk levels. So, you should not do something which will put your IT infrastructure at a risk, or the information or information resources at a risk. So, COBIT 5 actually helps you to create that balance because of the processes it follows. COBIT 5 enables information and related technology to be governed and managed in a very holistic manner for the whole enterprise, for the entire enterprise, taking in the full end-to-end business and functional areas of responsibilities, considering the IT related interests for internal and external stakeholders. So, COBIT 5 also enables the governance to be managed in a very holistic manner for the entire enterprise, taking in the full end-to-end business. That is what it effectively means. It addresses issues end-to-end in the area of responsibility. Again, we have seen something called ownership that was discussed earlier. It not only addresses the issues for the interest of your internal stakeholders, but also the external stakeholders. The COBIT 5 principles and enablers are generic and useful for enterprises of all size, whether commercial, whether it is a not for profit, or if it is in a public sector. It does not matter who is going to use COBIT 5. COBIT 5 is equally applicable to all. Now, this image also has been taken from Isaka. If you see at the center, look at the slide. COBIT 5, the first is you need to meet the needs of the stakeholder. We have discussed that. Second is COBIT 5 covers the enterprises end to end, that is from the business needs to the IT needs. You are applying a single integrated framework like we discussed earlier. It is a framework which addresses or starts from the business requirement and then goes to the IT requirement or IT implementation. So, it covers the end to end enterprise IT governance. So, it is a single integrated framework which covers both the business and IT side. It has an holistic